Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. This is your host, Amina Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to NextGen on our final episode of young women who are making some changes, who are fighting misogyny and sexism in the areas that they live in, and also for women across the world. We're there on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and soon on Apple TV as well. Now, today we have a young woman with us who's 16 years old and who's already facing that misogyny and who's fighting it back in her church, in her own community, and who hopes to do it on a national level as she gets older. We have with us Ava Merginian.
Hi, Amina. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. Ava is a 16-year-old, like I said before, who's from Hinsdale, Illinois. She's a first-generation immigrant and hopes to someday work as a public defender or in D.C. Both of those are phenomenal options, and she serves as on the board of her on the executive board of elders at her church, and she hopes to make a change, whether that is in law, politics, or through her writing. Thank you so much, Ava.
Thank you.
Now, Ava, before we talk about some of the work that you do with your church and just on a very personal level, I want to, bring it back to you, right? What is some of the experiences that you've had to go through as a woman? You said you're a first generation immigrant as well. So tell us about those experiences.
Yeah, so as a woman, it's sometimes, I'm sure as you know, very, it's subtle sometimes too. I play soccer, so a lot of the times I'll be, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch, or on Sundays I play with my dad, and it's like, we call it old man group because it's a bunch of him and his male friends, and they all play together. And I'm usually the only girl if I go play with them. And it's a lot of the little things where it's just like, oh, and so sometimes it'll be like, I'll make a good pass or I'll have a good game. And it's every time it's like forced compliments. And to me, it feels like they're overcompensating because I'm a woman. It's like they need to call it out. My brother will do the exact same thing I do when I'm playing, and he's younger than me, and they won't compliment him or say anything to him. So for me, it's just like, I'm just playing and you're feeling the need to call me out. Or sometimes they'll do it like to make fun of me, and then my dad will like step in and make fun of himself because of whatever the jokes. Like that happened recently, and I was just like, wow, that it hurts a little bit. And then on top of that experience, you also have in general guys in school, and then catcalling too. Like I've been on, I run cross country as well as play soccer, and I've been out on runs, and guys will be like, hi, hey, and they'll like start shouting or whatever, and I just don't respond because I don't want to respond. And then they get mad because I didn't respond. So it's stuff like that. Or also in school too, you'll have people who automatically assume that you don't know what you're doing. And for me, that's a little like, okay, thanks. But it also feels like a constant battle to just prove myself, whether it's in academics or athletics.
Wow, I think that's so powerful that it's a battle, right? That women, it's either they overcompensate or it's nothing at all. There needs to be that just treat us like we're normal, right? You don't need to overcompensate. So Ava, you talked about some of your experiences in school and outside of it, but do you feel like most of it happens at school, most of that discrimination that you spoke of?
I feel like the discrimination that happens in school is more subtle than outside. Like, catcalls wouldn't really happen inside school, but outside definitely. So I think it's more the type that differs. It's about the same, because in schools too, you also have a little more regulation than you do just walking around, or in situations like at soccer, because the teachers, well, they're not like actively preventing it. If they see it, they do say something usually. Or you can like, people usually avoid saying stuff like that because they don't want to get in trouble or be heard. Whereas outside, it's like they don't care anymore.
Yeah. But have you ever had to like call out male friends or male classmates for some of this stuff, or has that never happened?
Yeah, usually they don't know what they're doing. It's like they'll say something and then you're like, hey, like, No, that's not really an okay thing to be saying, which I honestly think is part of the problem.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't know what they're saying, because that means they haven't been educated on it. They don't know why it's wrong. They just don't know. And that, I think, going forward is going to be one of the main things on the feminist front in terms of educating male counterparts and also educating people all around the world about what it means to be a feminist and want equality, and also why some of those things people say are just flat out not okay.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself a feminist?
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to read the Google definition of feminism, which is advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes. And a feminist is one who supports feminism. And this is something that, to be honest, did not know the definition of feminism off the top of my head or written down or anything like that, except prior to this year. Mainly due to Mr. Nesbitt, because he was my AP Euro teacher, as Amina knows, because she was in class with me. And he made it very clear what it meant to be a feminist and the fact that we all should be feminists, because it's just equality for all people and no discrimination based on gender. So to me, the people who say they aren't either don't know what they're talking about or flat out are sexist, which, again, going back to educating everybody on what it means, I just think it's really important that we all understand that. But yes, I am definitely a feminist.
Yeah. But a lot of people have this one complaint with the feminist movement, and sometimes we see it used to oppose feminism as a movement as a whole, right? The lack of intersectionality in the feminist movement. Do you think that the movement is getting better at that, or with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, have we seen the feminist movement kind of advocating for women of color, for Black women as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I am not a woman of color, so I can't speak from their standpoint. But from what I've seen, it seems like it's getting better. And I say that with a grain of salt, because better is not best and better is not complete. It's not finished. Obviously, there's still a long way to go. But the acceptance of other types of women into the movement, it's definitely there. It's a start. We can obviously do better, and I believe that we will do better. But even these last couple of months, I'm just really hoping that everything that's happened these couple of months, it's not going to die away like it did in 2016 when this last big movement happened. I just really hope with all my heart that it stays and that we're able to continue to bring power to those movements, whether it be feminism or Black Lives Matter, just to raise awareness and continue to understand the struggles of people, or try to, and to help them and to make it better as a society.
Yeah. And you're right, better isn't best, right? Even though we're progressing, we're just not there yet. So as an ally yourself to women of color, to Black women, what do you think that the movement is doing, and where is it lacking, right? Where can it improve? Because I'm sure there's room for improvement.
Yeah, so I recently have delved into this a lot more than I would have in the past. And part of it's because I'm old enough to understand it now, but also I've just taken the time to try and educate myself, which I think is the first step, is really educate yourself and understand. Because a lot of it stems, I mean, a lot of anything, whether it's discrimination or whatever, stems from not knowing and not understanding. So if you can really try and put yourself in someone else's shoes.
I think we're having some technical difficulties right now. Can we just put up the banner? Yeah.
Hi, sorry.
Welcome back to NextGen. Sorry about that. Thank you. You got back in like less than a minute, so we're okay. You were talking about the lack of intersectionality in the feminist movement and how you've started to educate yourself personally. Tell us more about that and how that journey has been as an ally.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really eye-opening to learn about people who are completely different from me in almost every single way. I can identify on some fronts with some of the struggles, which I know a lot of people like. One thing that I found particularly difficult for myself is I am a white woman and I have naturally curly hair. And this sounds very superficial, but it's genuinely hard to find ways to style it. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, like to style it, to wear it. And growing up, I mean, I did all the things. I did like the tight buns, which awful. The pictures are so bad. But there's a fine line between finding something that works for you and cultural appropriation. And so I've never, luckily I have never, my mom's never let that happen before. I've never done anything that would be considered that. But one of the main things that I've been trying to do is, that's especially something that I was like, I want to learn more about this. I want to figure out what we can do so it doesn't happen, you know? So definitely cultural appropriation was one thing where I was like, I want to learn about this, educate myself, and then hopefully, I don't have any social media, so it's hard for me to inform other people, but through stuff like this or just talking with my friends and family, being able to have those discussions is just really important for everyone involved.
Yeah. You spoke about how, it's hard to style your hair and things, just that conversation. I wanted to bring in beauty standards that we have set for women. I remember I was on Twitter like a couple of days ago, and this girl was being dragged for having no makeup on. And it was just crazy that, we constantly try to say that, oh, women should be more natural, but then when they do, we drag them for it. So let's talk about, beauty standards and how these expectations are kind of just ruining the self-esteem of so many.
Yeah, it's so difficult. I don't wear like any makeup ever, and when I do, sometimes it's fine. But like for example, the other day I was a week or so ago, I was out with ice cream with my friends, and before they decided to do my makeup like emo, so they put like a ton of eyeliner and eyeshadow on everywhere, and it was purple and bright, and not what I normally do. If you can't tell from my appearance right now. But I was like, this is cool. I'll try it, confident. And then after Over Ice, we ended up getting like followed and catcalled by a bunch of like fifth graders. So it's stuff like that where it's like you can't win. And that really needs to change, whether that's by educating people or revising standards. That hurts, it hurts to be chased around a parking lot or feel you have to leave because there's people staring at you and they won't leave.
Yeah. You talked about, revising standards. Now let's bring it back to schools, right? Because you're in high school. So tell us about how high schools are doing. Do you think that they're providing a safe platform, a safe environment?
I mean, I don't know about safe. It's especially because I go to a public school. They don't really have a lot of control over it. So whatever happens, happens. And what I do like about our high school is that people can pretty much dress how they want, which compared to middle school where you had dress codes for everything. And I mean, on our DC trip, we were in Washington, DC on a trip, and one of our teachers brought gym shorts to dress code girls if their shorts were too short. So I wore my like shorter shorts on the last day when I'd already packed everything, and she'd already packed the gym shorts, so she couldn't dress code me. But like, it's stuff like that where it's just like, why is this an issue? Why should it matter how I look? And I mean, I understand being provocative and how some people might consider that like to themselves, they don't like that, but that's your problem in my opinion. And I know for sometimes I'll like see someone and I'm like, whoa, that's a low cut shirt. But then I try and check myself and be like, well, if she's happy and she's confident, then good for her, So I just feel like it's the little.
Thank you guys for watching NextGen. We'll be right back after our short break.
Assalamu alaikum. Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's world. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Welcome back to NextGen. I'm here with Ava Merginian speaking on the issues that we face in terms of misogyny and sexism. Now, Ava, can you tell me more about what schools can do to create a safer space? What are some regulations that they can enact so that women in schools feel safer, that they're free from much of the harassment that many face in high schools?
I think the first step to that, because if you just implement a bunch of regulations without explaining why or without researching, then it's just going to be chaos. So I feel like the first step is going to be to educate. We have social emotional learning at my school, which is what I think we're going to end up doing instead of doing physical activity this next year because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. But even just something as simple as adding in an aspect where you're learning about feminism, or you're learning about like people of color and the Black Lives Matter movement, stuff like that, where you implement it into schools and, this sounds bad, but force people to learn about it. Basically, even if they don't pay attention, there's going to be some people that hear, and just that little bit of academic interaction and experience, I think, is the first step to go a long way, because you have to start with the younger kids. We've seen time and time again that older generations are not always willing to listen or willing to change their beliefs, which good for them, but we're going to be in charge soon. So we need to make sure that we're educating the people younger than us, educating our peers, and trying to do our best to really make a difference and a change. And that first step is education.
Yeah. Like you said, we do need to force it a little bit more, because there's no other way that they're going to be educated on this issue unless schools implement that. Ava, tell us about some of the work that you do in your own life to counteract sexism.
So a lot of what I do currently, it's not on really big scales. It's more focusing on myself, my family, and my friends. And anytime, see something, say something. With bullying, same goes for sexism and racism and anything else. You cannot be silent. You have to step up and stand up for yourself and for other people. So me personally, I do a lot of standing up for people, which I'm a little hot-headed, so that doesn't always end up well. But even just saying something as simple as like, hey, can we talk about it? Or this hurt me, can explain why, like those I feel statements almost, where you're just bringing it up in a way that doesn't feel threatening to another person if you're close to them. Obviously, if you're not close to them, or they're just a random person in the street, it's a little more difficult. Like, I know I'll be the first person to tell you that I've reacted very strongly and probably inappropriately in some of those situations, because I just get so angry. It's like, why is this still happening? There's a why me aspect, but also why us? And so really, honestly, I don't see any other way than to go from the ground up. And like I've been continually saying, that's going to start with education.
Yeah. And I think for sure that your anger is valid, right? It's okay to be angry in these situations, because they kind of deserve anger. The fact that some of these situations take a toll on us, whether that be mentally, emotionally. But Ava, what can those around us do, right? Men, how can they become better allies to women?
Well, first step, talk about it, because I know it's difficult to do, and a lot of men don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to bring it up. And that is like beside from education and people not being educated about it, that's the number one problem, is that nobody wants to talk about it. And if you do, you're either misusing the terms, or you misunderstood, or it was a joke. And it's a lot of the same stuff or similar stuff that applies to racism, where people just kind of brush it off, or mental health, they brush it off, throw it on, like toss it under the rug. It doesn't matter. So to be a good ally, you need to be willing to talk about it, to discuss it, and to stand up if you see it happening. So if you see another man who's harassing a woman, stand up for her. She's going to appreciate it. And if you see a woman who's walking alone across a parking lot, don't approach her, because she's going to be scared, especially if it's dark out. And that's sad. But even like those little things where you just let someone be, or you stand up for someone if you see them in trouble, they do go a long way. And first and foremost, educating yourself and being willing and able to talk about it are extremely important. And I mean, I don't know the number of conversations. I've had a couple with my family, and I have a couple friends where it's like I'm able to talk about it. And it's so nice to have a genuine conversation about it, and to know that there are people who do support you and who are trying to understand what you're going through and to help you.
Yeah. But what can we do, to create a world that's more safer? You spoke about what men can do, which is educate themselves, stand up for women, but just even women, right? And all of us as a community, what are some steps we can take to create a safer world for women?
Well, I think that's a long run goal, because I mean, you've seen how long have humans been around, and how long has sexism been around? It's been a while. And like with systemic racism, sexism is kind of systemic as well. And it's going to be hard to overcome that and to move forward. I do think, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but it starts with education and educating everyone. But also through that education, by helping women, we can educate ourselves, and then put our education to good use, whether that's helping women in countries who don't have the same rights that we do. Like in the US, I know I'm fortunate. First of all, I'm white. So obviously that just gives me a ton of privilege that I didn't ask for, but I have it now. And I should be using that to help people, whether it's women of color or women in other countries that don't have the same rights that I do. And especially because I'm a US citizen, that's another thing. I have something that not a lot of people do, and it's a privilege. So taking your privilege and using it well and not abusing it, which part of knowing what is using it well and what's abusing it comes with education. So really educating, and then moving forward, do what you can, whether it's you make a blog or you're talking to your family. Maybe you make it a dinner table discussion or a lunch table discussion with your friends, or you say, hey, I really, really, really want to talk about this. Will you please sit down and discuss it with me? Or ask your teachers and maybe start a club, stuff like that, where it's like, it seems little, but once you get going, you can do really great things. And in the future, you're probably going to be in a position where you can cause change. And I know I felt really helpless recently, especially with everything going on with COVID and just being stuck at home, where I'm like, I really feel like I can't do anything. And that's part of why, like, within these past couple of months, I finally have decided what I want to do. And part of that is going to public service. And also, I really want to work in some capacity in the government, because I want to be able to create huge change, which obviously I know is sometimes not realistic, but I'm planning on trying to get there. And trying to get there means now doing what I can, like small things. Even though it's small, you're still making a difference in the lives of people around you and in your own life, because you're going to feel so much better once you say what you need to say. And you're going to find out who your real friends are too, because they're going to be the people who are like, sure, I'll discuss it. Or they'll also be the people who say, I'm not comfortable or not mentally able to discuss it right now. That's fine. Then you can come back to it later or not at all. But having people that are willing and able to discuss it with you, those are the people that are going to be like, they're with you forever, and have those discussions, and educate yourself and other people.
Yeah, Ava, you said that these little things that we take, those small steps, add up to something bigger. And I think we saw that with the Me Too movement, where one woman sharing her story made so many other women also come out, and it was a step of bravery for sure. But Ava, what is your message, final message to young women who may be in that same circumstance, those uncomfortable situations you spoke of? What is your message to them who may be feeling vulnerable and left out? What do you say to them?
Well, firstly, I want to say that the situation that you're in, that we're all in similar situations, it's not something that we should be used to. And the fact that it is it's terrible. But that's just the fact of the world right now. And what we're working to do is to change that. So first steps, obviously, is tell yourself you can. When you start getting into the I can't, I'm just 16 or 12 or 17 or 20 or however old you are, wherever you're from, you get sad, you get depressed, you start feeling kind of worthless. I was there and it was not a good place for me. And then I started thinking about all the things I can do, and it's a lot. Once you write them all down and add them all up, even if they're little, they're a lot. And the saying goes where one thing, you can change someone's life by one word or one look or one whatever it is during the day, a compliment, hello. You can do the same thing by saying, let's have this discussion, or go to your school board and say, I want to add this to the curriculum. Do your research, try and figure something out where you can make a difference, whether it's in your household, with your siblings, with your friends, in your school, or in your town. And it doesn't even have to be that big. Like I said, it can just be something small within your friend group or your household. And you are making a difference, whether it's giant global or not. And you can create change, and you'll get there. You just got to keep believing in yourself, and you have to keep telling yourself that you can.
Ava, that was honestly the motivation I feel like I needed. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much to our audience for tuning in. Thank you to my wonderful producer, Uche, for doing such an amazing, phenomenal job at producing. And until next time, until next week with a new theme, new guest, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all.